Have you ever felt a growing distance between you and the people you care about, but you just can't figure out why? You find yourself replaying conversations in your head, searching for clues, wondering if you said or did the wrong thing. You want real connection, closeness, and love, but it feels like something is holding you back. What if the problem isn't them? What if it's nearly invisible habits that you do every day without even realizing it? These behaviors are almost always unconscious, rooted in fear, insecurity, or old wounds, and they can show up in all kinds of subtle ways across all your relationships. Today, we're going to uncover 5 subtle signs that you might be sabotaging your relationships. And this doesn't just apply to romantic partners, but to your friendships and family too. More importantly, we're going to talk about what you can actually do to stop. I've seen so many people get stuck in these painful cycles. It's confusing, it's exhausting, and deep down it can be absolutely heartbreaking. But I need you to hear this. If any of this sounds familiar, it doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're broken. It's incredibly common. These behaviors are almost always a misguided form of self-protection, your mind's attempt to shield you from getting hurt. The good news is, once you see them, you can change them. Recognizing the pattern is the first real step toward building the healthier, more fulfilling connections you deserve. So, let's get into the first sign. The first subtle sign of self-sabotage is a pattern of avoiding things and emotionally withdrawing. This is when you consistently dodge difficult conversations, shut down during a conflict, or just pull away when things feel too intense. It can look like giving someone the silent treatment after a disagreement, quickly changing the subject when a serious topic comes up, or insisting that everything is fine when it's clearly not. In a romantic relationship, this destroys intimacy and trust. With friends and family, it makes genuine connection impossible and leaves the other person feeling confused and shut out. So why do we do this? On the surface, avoiding a conflict just feels safer than facing it. This is a defense mechanism. It often comes from past experiences, maybe from your childhood or an old relationship where expressing your feelings led to something bad, like being dismissed, criticized, or abandoned. Your brain learned that being vulnerable is dangerous, so now it tries to protect you by shutting everything down. It's a subconscious attempt to control the situation and avoid pain, but ironically, it creates the exact distance you were afraid of in the first place. The way to fight this is to practice what psychologists call a soft startup. This just means learning to bring up issues calmly and respectfully, focusing on your feelings instead of blaming the other person. So, instead of saying, "You never listened to me," which is guaranteed to make them defensive, try using an I statement. For example, "I feel hurt when I see you on your phone while I'm talking because it makes me feel like what I'm saying isn't important to you." This isn't about winning an argument. It's about sharing your feelings in a way that invites your partner in, instead of pushing them away. Start small. Pick a low-stakes issue and practice this. It'll feel weird at first, but it's a vital skill for building real emotional intimacy. Does this sound familiar? Your partner does the dishes, but you immediately point out the one spot they missed. A friend is excited about a new job, and your first reaction is to poke holes in their plan. This is the second sign: excessive criticism and nitpicking. It's a habit of focusing on other people's flaws or tiny mistakes instead of seeing the good or offering support. You might tell yourself you're just being helpful or that you have high standards, but this behavior is incredibly damaging. It slowly chips away at the other person's self-esteem and makes them feel constantly judged. Over time, they'll either get defensive or start pulling away to protect themselves from the negativity. This habit is rarely about the other person. More often than not, constant criticism is a reflection of our own deep-seated insecurities. When you feel unworthy or not good enough on the inside, Finding fault in others can give you a temporary feeling of being superior or in control. It's a classic defense mechanism. If you can focus on their flaws, you don't have to face your own fear that maybe you're not good enough for them. Psychologists also link this to perfectionism and anxiety. It's a way of trying to control the world around you to make your inner world feel less chaotic. The antidote to criticism is to intentionally practice gratitude and appreciation. For the next week, make it your mission to find and say one genuine thing you appreciate about the important people in your life every single day. Instead of pointing out the chore they forgot, try saying, "Thank you so much for getting the groceries today. I really appreciate it." This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about consciously retraining your brain to look for the good. This not only makes the other person feel seen and valued, but it also helps you see your relationships in a more positive light, shifting the whole dynamic from judgment to support. The third sign is a constant struggle to trust people, which usually shows up as a need for endless reassurance. This is when you're plagued by doubts about your partner's or friend's loyalty, even with no real evidence. It looks like asking over and over, "Are you mad at me?" Or, "Do we still love each other?" It could be checking their phone, overanalyzing their tone of voice for hidden meanings, or feeling intense jealousy about their friends or coworkers. Wanting some reassurance is normal, but when it's constant, it's exhausting for the other person. It puts them in the impossible position of having to constantly prove their love, which only leads to frustration and distance. This pattern is almost always rooted in a deep fear of abandonment. It often comes from past experiences where your trust was broken, whether it was a betrayal in a past relationship or feeling like you couldn't count on your caregivers as a child. Because of these old wounds, you might have developed a core belief that you're destined to be left. So you subconsciously test the relationship to see if the person will stick around, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where your attempts to not be abandoned end up pushing them away. The key here is learning to self-soothe and build trust in yourself. When that wave of anxiety hits, instead of immediately running to your partner for reassurance, just pause. Take a few deep breaths. Acknowledge the fear, but don't let it control your actions. Try journaling about what you're feeling and why you think it's coming up. Remind yourself, my fear is a feeling, not a fact. The goal is to build your own ability to handle uncertainty and to become your own source of security. This doesn't mean you can never ask for reassurance, but it means you stop making someone else responsible for managing your anxiety. When you learn to comfort yourself, you take a huge weight off the relationship and allow real trust to grow. The fourth subtle sign is the flip side of avoidance, overdependence, or what can feel like clinginess. This is when you rely on one person for all of your happiness, emotional support, and sense of self. It might look like wanting to be with them 24/7, feeling intense anxiety when you're apart, or dropping your own hobbies and friends to completely merge your life with theirs. Maybe you cancel plans with your own friends just in case your partner becomes free, or you call a family member multiple times a day for their opinion on tiny decisions. Closeness is great, but overdependence suffocates a relationship. It puts way too much pressure on the other person to be your everything, which often leads to resentment and makes them feel trapped. Eventually, they might pull away just to get some breathing room. This behavior often comes from what psychologists call attachment anxiety. It's driven by a core fear of being alone and a belief that you'll be rejected if you aren't constantly connected. If you struggle with low self-esteem, you might look to your relationship to give you the worth you don't feel on your own. Your identity gets so tangled up in the relationship that being separate feels like a threat, like a part of you is missing. This isn't a sign of how much you love someone. It's a sign of how much you fear being on your own. The way forward is to intentionally reinvest in your own life and rediscover who you are outside of your relationships. Make a real effort to reconnect with your own hobbies and friends. Schedule one night a week that is just for you. Take a class, go for a walk, have dinner with a friend. This will probably feel scary at first. Your anxiety might spike. But by proving to yourself that you can not only survive but actually enjoy your own company, you build self-reliance. This is one of the best gifts you can give your relationship. When two whole, independent people choose to be together, it creates a much stronger and healthier bond than when two halves are desperately trying to make a whole. The final subtle sign is a failure to set your own boundaries, or, on the flip side, a tendency to disrespect the boundaries of others. This is a two-sided coin. On one side, you might be a people pleaser, saying yes to everything and never speaking up for your own needs, because you put everyone else's comfort first. On the other side, you might be the one who oversteps, giving unsolicited advice, dropping by unannounced, or pushing for emotional connection when someone has asked for space. Either way, a lack of boundaries quietly poisons relationships, leading to resentment, burnout, and a total lack of mutual respect. Not setting boundaries is usually driven by a fear of rejection. You think, if I say no, they won't like me anymore. Undermining someone else's boundaries can also come from fear, a fear of losing control, or a fear that if you give them space, you'll lose the connection. Many of us learn these patterns at home. If you grew up in a family where boundaries were blurry, ignored, or just didn't exist, that kind of chaos can feel completely normal to you. The answer is to start practicing boundaries in small, low-stakes ways. You don't have to start with a big, dramatic confrontation. If you're a people pleaser, try saying, "Let me think about that and get back to you," instead of giving an automatic yes. This gives you a moment to figure out what you actually want. If you tend to overstep, practice asking for permission. Is now a good time to talk about this? Or, are you looking for advice, or do you just need me to listen right now? Setting and respecting boundaries is a skill. Like any other skill, it gets easier with practice. It's the foundation of every healthy relationship because it sends a clear message: I respect myself and I respect you. So let's recap the 5 subtle signs: avoidance and emotional withdrawal, excessive criticism, trouble with trust, overdependence, and poor boundaries. If you recognized yourself in any of these, please don't feel ashamed. See it as a moment of opportunity. It's just your brain trying to protect you, even if its methods are a little outdated. Self-awareness is the key that opens the door to change. You have the power to unlearn these habits and build relationships that are based on trust, respect, and real intimacy. It takes courage and practice, but you are absolutely worthy of a love that feels safe and secure. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more content on building healthier relationships. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these signs felt the most familiar? Sharing your story can be a powerful step, and it helps other people feel less alone. Thanks for watching.